Perhaps this is the greatest disbelief for every single human being on this planet Earth. We think that we are rational. We think that every single decision that we are making, we are doing it on a rational basis. And so this is the greatest disbelief, and this couldn't be further from the truth, right? Because we are seeing ourselves, and we are just looking at ourselves, and we are just unable to see the emotions and see the actual triggers that have been made us to make those decisions. And so the very first realization that we all must do in order for us to become more rational is to realize that we are not rational. Every single decision that we ever made and we will make in the future will be based on an emotional basis. And so this is how the decision making process looks like inside of a human being. So first we have a trigger that will eventually trigger an emotional reaction to us. So there, initially we will have a happening. After an event happened, then we'll have an emotional reaction to that. And so from that emotional reaction, we'll be having a counteraction for that. So for example, let's talk about anger. This is how it looks like on the surface. Josh, my dear friend, forgot to call me regarding to job assessment, or a deadline in job. And so because of him, I pretty much screwed this thing up, and I had a fight with my boss. And so now I'm angry with John because John is the cause, right? And so the actual idea is that it could be labeled that it was John's fault, but we can have different reactions to this. So for example, if we really understand that Josh perhaps just forgot because he got other things to do, then we can just realize that, man, like this guy just pretty much forgot. So if I'm angry with him, it means that I have some kind of an inner disturbance inside of myself that I'm pretty much trying to project on him, right? Because at the end of the day, you can be pissed off, but you didn't really solve the problem. It didn't really change the outcome. You got screwed. That's it. And so now you can have pretty much two options. The very first one is that you are resentful regarding to Josh, or the second one is that you understand that, hey man, like these are my emotions, so now I'm just pretty much taking control of my emotions and I'll be acting as rational as possible. Okay, so now the shit happened, like how can I solve the shit? So it's like my boss is calling in like, hey man, like what has happened? Okay, this is what happened, yes, I'm responsible for that thing. Although on the other hand, you could also have put that thing on your calendar. And so if you start not looking outside of yourself but trying to look inside of yourself, like, hey man, like what could have I done? Now all of a sudden we are realizing that, hey man, like I could have solved that problem, but since I was like super emotional in the moment, I was reacting. And so this is the worst thing with emotions, like we are reacting and we are reactive when we are in an emotional state. And so the more decisions we are making when emotions are high, the more bad decisions we will be making throughout our lives. And so the actual idea here is that emotions, by the way, this is how the brain is all built up. We have the reptilian brain, which is pretty much goes for the automatization, digesting all the good stuff. We have the mammal brain, which is for which stands for the emotion, and we have the neurocortex, which stands for actually cognition. Like we are able to talk. We have higher level skills such as language. And so with that being said, emotions are in the mammal brain. And what do they mean? So basically how they work is that they are just signaling an immediate response based on the circumstances that do surround us. So for example, hey man, I just saw a snake, or like there's a lion. What you do? You fear. It's like impulse reaction. And we have all these things inside of ourselves because we've been born like this. Like this is in our DNA. And so with that being said, we are reactive. Emotions are basically the shortcuts to understand the situation way better based on some trigger actions, right? So for example, let's just take with fear. Hey man, I'm afraid of that thing. It's like I see a snake, I'm freaking afraid. It's like this thing is just kicks in. Or hey man, I'm alone. I'm starting to have like pretty much like paranoid ideas and so on and so forth. Or I'm angry, like what I do, I'm attacking, fight or flight, right? And so when we are at that state, we are just reacting because it's like trigger and reaction. We do not really think. And so above that, there's another level when we are just thinking through the situation and hey man, like this is the actual rational cause, the rational thing. And so this would be the actual rational decision regarding this. So for example, hey man, now that my boss, now that I forgot to actually get that assignment done, it's like, man, I screwed up. Okay, but like, what can I do? What can I do now? And the actual greatest, I would say, takeaway from these ideas is that we shouldn't ever supposed to be looking outside of ourselves to find a cause, and not only just to find a cause, but we shouldn't ever really supposed to be acting when we are emotional. Every single time when we are emotional and we have to make decisions, we are supposed to be doing something that actually causes us to calm the F down, and after we've been able to calm the F down, then we are actually making the decision afterwards. So this is, by the way, you're seeing me running every single damn day, right? And so the main reason for that is that most of the time starting my days with dealing the BS in my business. And business is this. It's like you have to solve problems every single god-given day, every single god-given time. And so many times it's like, man, I'm just like getting tired of that, frustrated, all that stuff. And so after I'm coming out here for a run, it's like I'm just really getting in touch with those emotions, and I'm just pretty much like pushing those emotions outside of myself, or pushing them as far as humanly possible. And after that, I pretty much tap into my rational brain as possible. I'm just going back home, I'm taking a cold shower. It's like I was like, pretty much connected with my beast, with my emotions. And after that, I just simply start writing. And so every single time when I just write after those exercises, I'm just like, bro, this is the solution. This is how it works. Like, this is how this whole thing works. And so the other thing with this is eating. So for example, this is why I'm eating most of the times 1 meal a day, or intermittent fasting. It's like, this is why I do not really eat up until the point that I didn't get the thinking part of my day done. It's like my brain works way more clearly and with less emotions when I don't have food in my system. When I have food in my system, I'm enthusiastic. So after lunch, it's like making a decision after lunch is like I'm either sluggish. If I eat too much, I don't really eat lunch. So I only eat lunch when I'm like, I have to go and I just need to eat something. So for example, I eat dinner today, I eat breakfast today because I just simply, I was like low on calories. So with that being said, today I felt like, man, like I'm working, but I don't really feel that rational thing inside of myself. I'm just like somehow disconnected. And so this is the same thing with eating. And so every single thing and every single exercise that I'm doing is all directed towards me being as rational as humanly possible. And so just to finish up this huge ranting over here, I just want to tell you a story. So this is what happened. I recently got back to dating because I realized that monk mood is a very nice thing, but if I'm doing that, I will be just wasting away my potential. So here's the idea. I just started dating, and so I pretty much have a girl who I just wanted to date her because I think that I just like her personality. I felt that we are supposed to be figuring this thing out, whether or not it works or not, because I knew her from before, and so on and so forth. This is not the point. The point is that I just simply asked her out for a date, and yeah, everything was good, and asked her out for a second date, and everything was good. But after the date, she pretty much went to clubbing because it was a Saturday, and it's like she's more into this clubbing shit. And so what happened is that after that, I just went home and I was like, man, like I'm feeling desperate, I'm feeling frustrated, like this is not what I've planned. And that emotion like pretty much rambled into many chains of like it had like a chain reaction. It's like, hey man, I texted after that like 3 girls immediately. I went out clubbing. I pretty much screwed up my Saturday night. Instead of me going to bed, to have like a proper Sunday next day, being able to read and all that stuff, I just pretty much went out to clubbing, which I do not really do, and I do not really like doing. I mean, like I love doing that, but it's like it is just